It was the day that sent shockwaves on Wall Street, but the impact was felt around the world. On September 15, 2008, Lehman Brothers collapsed into bankruptcy. This marked the beginning of the financial meltdown that would plunge the world's economies into the most severe recession since the Great Depression of the 1930s. Since then, federal bailouts seemed to have helped stabilize the freefall. But does that mean we are out of the woods yet? One person who doesn't think so is prominent financial analyst Mike Mayo. Mike still believes that the underlying system that led to this catastrophe has yet to be corrected. While others are calling for more regulation of the industry, Mike says what's needed is better enforcement. He is a staunch supporter of free market and believes it is actually a lack of capitalism that led to the financial crisis.
Capitalism did not cause the financial crisis. A lack of capitalism is what caused the financial crisis. In the middle of the crisis during Thanksgiving, my wife's 93-year-old grandmother pulls me aside. Now, this is somebody who survived the Great Depression, and she was visibly shaken. And she asked me, "Is my money safe in the bank?" Wow. How did we get to that point? Capitalism is a righteous system if done correctly. It facilitates innovation, creativity, growth, and progress. But the one factor that caused the financial crisis more than any other, and that continues today, is faulty incentives. Incentives drive behavior. This is a man-made system. It's not like planets rotating around the sun, so you must get the incentives correct. So I think we can all agree, 99%, 1%, 100% can agree that we need to have better accountability, better economic opportunity, better oversight, and a better version of capitalism, sustainable capitalism.
Mike Mayo has seen the banks from all sides. From his time at the Federal Reserve to an analyst at 6 Wall Street firms, he has been consistently one of the lone analysts speaking out about what he calls negligent and reckless business practices by high-level executives at some of the nation's biggest banks. Before 2008, many called him an alarmist, but since the alarm went off on that fateful day in 2008, many are now listening and want to hear more. Today, Mike is still calling for more changes on Wall Street. He says that what's needed to help correct the economy and prevent future collapse is as straightforward as A, B, and C.
The solutions to our financial problems can be summed up as ABC. The A stands for accounting. We need to get the numbers correct. We need to know the accurate financial health of large corporations. The B stands for bankruptcy. If the large banks or corporations fail, they should be allowed to fail. If they do well, the top executives make a lot of money, and that's fine. It's America. But if they don't do well and the companies fail, they should go to the dust heap. And the C stands for clout. The clout should be reduced from the CEOs and the boards of directors and given more to the shareholders. And the long-term interests of the shareholders are in sync with the long-term interests of the customers and the employees if done correctly. I'm concerned about the ongoing abuses even after the financial crisis, but at the same time, I'm extremely hopeful from what I've seen at the once-a-year annual meetings held for shareholders by corporations, because in the most recent round, you've seen shareholders speak up more than ever before.
Mike Mayo has been a prominent figure on Wall Street for 25 years. He first distinguished himself through time at the Federal Reserve. He has testified to Congress on the banking system on many occasions, and as a bank analyst, he has a remarkably accurate track record, gaining notoriety by criticizing big banks for covering up losses. In his book, Exile on Wall Street, Mike gives an insider's chronicle of how he swam against the current to take on some of the biggest banking firms and worst Wall Street practices. He tells the tale of how he has taken an outsider's perspective for more than 20 years, with the backdrop of the financial meltdown of the millennium from his calls that it was coming to today.
I wrote my book, Exile on Wall Street, which is my first book and the only book that I'll ever do, because 20 years on Wall Street, I saw the abuses that took place, and I wanted to sound the alarm. I mean, I cannot believe that our banks were in a position that they were in during the financial crisis, that we were wondering if the bank was going to work from one day to the next. If you turn on your faucet and you had to wonder whether water would flow out of that, that's not a good situation, and that's where we got to with the banking system. You weren't sure if your banks were safe from one day to the next. And how do we get in that situation? It's due to all the faulty incentives, and I saw that these same incentives are in place today, so I wanted to sound the alarm. I wanted to ring the bell and alert people this bill has not been fixed.
Today, Mike is commended by many and still held with disdain by others on Wall Street. While the economy is slowly recovering, Mike continues to speak out against corporate greed and speak up for shareholders.
Well, you've seen two movements. You've seen one movement with Occupy Wall Street and people protesting, and you've seen another movement with shareholders revolting. And to some degree, they're different sides of the same coin. I think the biggest surprise to my book, Exile on Wall Street, is not that the protester type agreed, it's that many people on Wall Street itself agreed with me. And so now you see the shareholders revolting, speaking up about corporate abuses along with the protesters. Now the solutions might be a little bit different, where the protesters are thinking more about the customers and the shareholders are thinking more about the returns that they'll get. But in the long term, their interests should all be aligned if capitalism is working correctly, because it should benefit the customers, the employees, and the shareholder returns.
For more information about the financial collapse, read Mike Mayo's Exile on Wall Street.